Go.
Notice it has not become a world government. Notice what I said. The purpose of World War I was to get us to convince nations cause wars. So we had, I'm going to make it up, 6 nations fighting. But in World War II, we had maybe a dozen. I don't know how many it was, but it was more nations. So we can now say for certain, we were fed up. That war lasted for 5 years. 53 million people died in World War II. Innocent people. Now, certainly there were soldiers dying, and you could argue maybe they're not innocent, but the civilians by the millions were wiped off the face of the earth to give us to convince us that nations cause wars, but they didn't pull a string. It's still there.
They funded it too. Weren't the UN funding the World War II?
Let me give you one little example. Anthony Sutton, one of the great researchers, one of my great heroes, did the research on one major decision made by Standard Oil. Germany had no gasoline, no oils. It was barren of oil. They couldn't drill it down to get oil. So they needed to have a major war. They needed oil someplace. So they contacted Standard Oil in America and said, we'll make you a deal. We'll create a chemical company called IG Farben, and you create Standard Oil, and we'll swap technology. So we gave Germany the ability to take coal and convert it to gasoline. There would have not been a World War II if Germany did not have gasoline. And where did they get it? From Standard Oil. Do you understand? Standard Oil knew what they were doing. They were going to stay out of the chemical business, and IG Farben would stay out of the oil business.
IG Farben, they had come over to America, and they're the ones that set up the medical industry.
Yes. Well, once again, they're staying out of the oil business, getting in the chemical business.
Chemical business, that's it. I mean, that is what the medical industry is. It's the chemical business.
Notice
hidden in front of our eyes, right there.
These people have no concern for human life. None. Can you imagine Franklin Delano Roosevelt sitting as president in the White House, waiting for notification of the attack on Pearl Harbor? He did.
Yeah.
George Marshall.
Go on.
George Marshall was out riding that morning. He got out. He said, I'm not going to be here. Many of the others had fled to Washington, D.C., but Roosevelt sat in the White House waiting for notification. He knew it was going to happen. On my website, in fact, if you become a friend of mine, at the very bottom, I show you a newspaper headline, Hawaii, on November the 30th, 41, the weekend before the 6th and the 7th. This is Sunday to Sunday the 7th. On the 6th and 7th, a weekend. So the headline read, Japan may attack this weekend.
Yeah.
Now, how did they know, but Roosevelt didn't know? Huh? I would dare say that Roosevelt's intelligence experts knew more than the newspaper, maybe. One would expect. We'd already broken the Japanese war code.
Yeah.
We knew when the submarines were going to attack. And so Roosevelt knew it was going to happen on the morning of the 7th. And he sat there and waited for it to happen. 3,000.
It sounds so familiar to what we saw when George Bush Jr. was given the news that the World Trade Centers were being attacked. His face, it just looked like, okay, that's game on,
Let's talk about that. That's interesting. You can watch the video. George Bush is in a little classroom, someplace in Florida, was it? He's out of Washington, D.C. So in case they might very well have made a mistake and bombed the White House. We're not supposed to do that. So he said, I'll go to Florida. George Bush told us that he watched the first airplane strike the first tower. How did he do that?
Yeah.
There was no live coverage. No. He said that in a press conference.
Yeah.
I watched it in the schoolroom. I watched the first airplane hit. There's no live coverage.
Wow. Well, there's also reports that state that somebody reported that the World Trade 7 building had fallen over, and it was like
Oh,
sitting right
yes.
behind them. It was still up and
The
hadn't fallen
woman's
over.
giving, I think it's the BBC. Yes, the story is that this building, the World Trade Center number 7, has collapsed, and they're just standing behind her.
Yeah.
But the point is,
That's one of the things that I'm really, I really do hope that people are made accountable for that horrible event, because there is so many people that have challenged the narrative, and yet nobody is putting anybody responsible for that. And there are people that very well, like the Project for a New American Century. I don't know if you have read that, but that group of people that wrote that document were then brought into the White House, and not even 9 months later, this event happened. And it's the same event that they wrote verbatim, and that has been happening, and this war has been going on now for 20 years almost.
Well, it started in 1990, I guess. Yeah, the World Trade Center happened in the year 2001, was it?
Yeah.
I want to give you some evidence that people knew about it years in advance. Make a note of this mentally if you want to. Google David Rockefeller. Google images and search down with all the pictures. You'll see a picture of a magazine called Newsweek side by side. Of course, I've got it backwards. This is let's see, that would be the cover, and this is the back cover. So they've opened it up like this. And there's David Rockefeller sitting like this with the camera facing him, and he's sitting there with his hand like this, and you can see his wristwatch. And you say, well, what did he do that for? And then behind him he's sitting on his own desk, and behind him is a panel of white, clear glass. You can see he's sitting up on the top, top layer. Although you could look for 40 miles and then down to Long Island. And then when you look at his wristwatch, it looks like a Mickey Mouse watch. The letters are, big size, and the two hands are pointing towards 9/11. Why?
Yeah.
Was that by design? Then he's somewhat looking at this corner. Here's him looking towards this corner, and there's a Terryton cigarette ad. And the Terryton cigarette ad has an emblem on their package of two red stripes about like this, separated by a gap. And as I remember, there's a man and a woman, and they're standing side by side. So there's the Twin Towers. Yeah. David Rockefeller was the one who urged a building built at the other end of the island, where no building was allowed to be over 50 stories. But he wanted him to build a 110-story building, two of them. Now, I was in New York. Don't start adding on me. Just forget that. Don't put your calculator out. I was in New York after the airplane hit the Empire State Building.
Okay.
And I saw it standing like this, away from down here, and there was a bunch of wooden plywood up here where they're repairing the damage of a B-26 went into the Empire State Building. So in other words, this could be the reason. David said, wait a minute, that's a great idea. I'll get them to build them down here where there's only 50. So they got 50 stories to fly into. And then I'll make sure that we cover this. Not one airplane hit those two towers. No, not airline. Something else hit it, because there's no record of anyone dying at that time. And secondly, the Pentagon was not hit by an airliner. An airliner can't come down and fly above the ground by 6 feet.
I know. Aren't the nose of an airplane supposed to be so thin and light, and yet the whole hole, this huge hole, has appeared?
I cannot.
Doesn't make sense.
People say there's a way to make there's a word for this, to make this appear to be real when it's not.
Yeah.
But I'll give you this. Steven Spielberg knew, because Steven Spielberg made 3 movies called Back to the Future. 1985, 88, and 89. And all 3 of those movies feature a story where he's going back and forth into the future, where the Twin Towers are going to be exploded by Arab terrorists sometime in the future.
I didn't know that.
9/11. Now, if you want to check that, go to Google videos and type in Back to the Future and start watching. Spielberg knew in advance.
Yeah. Well, there are a few people that knew. There's another example of that from the Creator of Files.
I'm going to name it.
Yeah.
Al Franken was a senator from Wisconsin or someplace up in the north, there where it is. So Franken got involved with some sort of escapade with some girl or whatever, so he gets booted out. I read his book. He had an office in the Twin Towers where he said he would go when he wanted to write freely without interruptions and phone calls. So he rented a space someplace in the Twin Towers. The day before the Twin Towers occurred, in his own book, said from Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City, told Franken, don't go in to your office on 9/11. A mayor, former mayor, warned him in advance something was, don't go in that day. Wait a minute. How did Bloomberg is the former mayor of New York City, and he warned Franken, and Franken, for whatever reason, put it in writing in his own book.
Yeah.
And David Rockefeller told us it was going to happen on 9/11.
Yeah, I know. Once you see these hidden symbols and secret words and you just, it's so obvious. It is obvious. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay, so there is a lot that we could talk about 9/11, and I think false flags in general really kind of prove that there is a hidden hand at work here. There's actually two things I want to talk about before we wrap this up, Ralph. And I want to talk a little bit before we go into religion, because I believe that this is a religious, spiritual battle. What I'm starting to understand that, this has been written in the Bible, and so I've been guided to read the Bible, and I want to talk a little bit about the Bible with you in a few minutes. But can we first talk about, kind of digressing, going back to America's founding fathers? Can we just talk briefly about the Constitution and Articles? I think it's 13 and 14.
If I may, I would suggest we do that at another time.
Okay.
That whole story was going to take probably 20 minutes, half an hour even.
Yes. Okay.
I will say this.
Yeah.
Our founding fathers gave Congress total, okay, whatever it is, total power, total, none limited, no limits to that power in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where? I want to see this. Article 1 creates the legislative branch of government. Section 8 grants them powers. The 17th power, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, Congress shall have the power to legislate in all cases whatsoever. What does the word all mean?
Mm-hmm.
I make up a story. Perhaps you know, I've written a book about Jesse James.
Yeah.
Famous outlaw. Jesse James, I moved my camera. I'll sit up higher. Okay. I moved my camera.
You're getting all into it.
I'm not shrinking into my earthquake here. I'm sitting because the camera that I bought, just started using, fluctuates on top. And if I sit, okay.
Getting excited.
You can still see me. I'll go like this. Okay. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 says Congress, Jesse James.
Yeah. Jesse
James, the famous outlaw, used to rob trains. So here's a train car. And Jesse James would enter here at the I don't know where it is. You'd enter here, and a guy would enter at this end. So everybody's facing this direction. Jesse James would walk in and say, I'm Jesse James. I'm here to rob you of all your money, all. So he said he knew what he meant. He wanted all. He didn't want a percentage of it, all. So he knew what all meant. So there's some banker sitting there saying, well, gee, Jesse, I'm a banker. I'll give you half. Jesse said, I want it. Perhaps, do you not know what the word all means? I means all. I want all. A little shoemaker says, I am a shoemaker. I only have $20. I'll give you 10. Jesse said, all, all. The shoemaker knew what the word all meant too.
Mhm.
All means all. It's meant that forever. It's still the dictionary definition.
Yeah, and I think
Congress,
you've even pointed out that the founding fathers knew what all was, because it's the same exact clause that they released themselves from King,
yes,
King of England at that time. So they knew very well what the term all
yes, yes.
represented.
That's
So,
what takes a little long time to.
yeah,
That can be
yeah,
documented, and I think it's documented in America's Secret Destiny.
yeah.
Did you not see that about the
I did.
dictionary?
I was very, very, and I even wrote a little post. Now I've put a post together that shows where they retracted from the King of England, and then where they put it into the Constitution. It's right there, right there. And
Now
so
wait.
now we're living under America. We think we're free, but the Congress, who funnily enough is ruling over these regulations that are causing us harm, the Congress are the ones that are saying this is what's going to happen. And they have, the reason why they can do that is because they have all power to do that. So it makes sense. It kind of, does make sense.
Now, the tragic part is that we are not taught that. Why? I wonder why. Would they want us to learn that they've got total control over everything you do? All power? Would they want us to know that? I don't think so. I'll give you an example. There's a group in Tucson, I'm not going to name it, but anyway, they're offering classes on the Constitution. So I went to the first three of them. There are 4 sessions for an hour and a half on Wednesday night. So you sit there for 4. So I sat there for 4 nights waiting for them to say, let's talk about Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Not one mention, not one. So I went to the second one. Not one, not one, not one. I went to the third one. Not one. Why? Why? I wonder why. Could it be that the people who are teaching us about the Constitution know it's there, and they know we're not supposed to know that it's there? Article 1, check it out. Article 1, the legislative branch, Section 8, Clause 17. 1, 8, 17. Read it. Congress shall have the power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever.
It's amazing. It really is. You need to really understand grammar and language and the way sentences are put together for you to really realize how powerful that statement is.
Yes, it's extreme. But the point is that people even today laugh at me when I point it out on Facebook. By the way, I'm on Facebook. I'm simply Ralph Epperson. You know that. I think you found me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm the one that called Ralph Epperson. Everyone calls crazy. The lunatic, the tin cup hat or wherever it's called. But I'm in there with Bill Clinton.
I don't care what they call you, Ralph. I've learned so much about you, and I would say that anybody that wants to get in touch with you to talk about this, they're welcome to. I mean, Ralph is very open to talking about this with anyone, and I really encourage you, if you have any doubt or if you want to challenge him on any of these points, go for it, because he would love it.
In fact, I'm looking for liberal hosts to invite me on their radio program, and I know they're liberal because in 1 hour, I can convince them by using Bill Clinton, their hero. Their hero is Bill Clinton. Maybe not the younger ones, but the middle-aged people, they know about Bill Clinton. For 8 years, he was our president. We know about Hillary, his wife.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, Bill Clinton is a conspiracy realist. Yeah. I'm called a conspiracy theorist, but I'm also a conspiracy realist because I've proven it from their own literature.
I think this is a good segue into religion, because I know that there are some dark facts about the Clintons, and we don't need to talk about what they're doing specifically, but can we talk about this religion that seems to be, they're not ruling us yet, but this is kind of a religious topic.
Remember what I said, Bill Clinton told us, Dr. Quigley taught him that this conspiracy, the International Anglophile Conspiracy, controls both political parties equally. Now, I like to use the example of a wrestling match. I don't want to ruin it for you because I know you watch every week religiously, and you always cheer for the blonde-haired man against the black-haired man, or the Hispanic against the whatever it is said. And but notice this: before the match, there's a guy saying, "Okay, listen, we're going to go to Tucson next Thursday, so we're going to wrestle. You two are going to fight. I want you to win, and I want you to lose. Okay, good, we'll do that. Make sure you do it when it's time for commercials. Make sure you're knocked down flat and you stand around and cheer, so we can have the commercial and then come back and make it last exactly 12 minutes and 13 seconds." So they do that. And the people in the stands pay whatever, hundreds of dollars, I don't know how much it costs, $20, $50 to go watch this, and they scream their full heads off. It's all rigged. The parties, after they gouge each other and kick each other and call them names, they go out for a beer together.
Oh, I know. I mean, you see these people together, shaking hands and having photos together, and they're supposed to be enemies. What is going on?
So they get together for conventions. They'll go as a mass, and there'll be 7 of them, and they're all shaking hands and signing autographs. And here's my buddy. And last week I hated him with the guy gouged me, kicked me in. It's rigged. It's rigged.
It's funny. One of my teachers that first got me onto this path, he calls it it's theater for the masses.
Yes.
Theater. This is all theater, and some real stuff is happening behind the scenes. And yeah, if people don't wake up, there is clear and present danger here.
They're drawing 13 to 15,000 people in one building at one time. And then they have pay-per-view where you pay to watch it for 2 hours. They're making exorbitant money. First of all, I would believe in the free enterprise system. I don't go to there, so they don't get my money, but they do for these young people, especially, and maybe middle-aged people. Grandma and grandpa go to watch the wrestling matches, and they scream and shout when their man loses and boo the guy that beat them. It's all staged. Okay. I knew I didn't mean to ruin it for you because I know you watch every week. Yeah.
You haven't told me anything that I don't already know, Alex.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about this religion. Let's talk about it from the religious standpoint of.
Well, I have whole videos. I've got an 8-hour video called the Conspiracy Against Christianity, and that's what this is. I want to remind you the second title of my third book is called Conspiracy Against Christianity. Mm-hmm. That's what this is. I don't say that. I quote those who know it because that's what their goal is. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy against Christianity. Now, if I may, I would suggest we spend some time on that, maybe discuss that in the New World Order, maybe if you want to at another date.
Okay.
Because for me to get into that issue, I need some background information, and I got to lay down some foundations that you can understand. Yeah. Please, if I may, I try to make sure. If I tell you one quick story, I taught a class at Mount Hood Community College part-time. Yeah, I know. We've been on for over an hour and a half.
No, there's just somebody doing ruckus. I'll keep going, Ralph. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to come into the studio.
Okay.
Keep going.
I taught classes at the Mount Hood Community College. And I was asked to speak there by a friend of mine who taught there. He was a teacher. So he said, come lecture to my class. I said, okay. So I did that 1 hour. And I went in there with slides. And I think I used handouts. I didn't have a slide projector. So we read quotes. And I laid out some stuff they'd never heard before. So I said, okay, thank you very much. I did my job. He called me about 3 weeks later. He said, listen, you are a natural teacher. I said, what are you talking about? I don't know how to teach. He said, we're still talking about what you said 4 weeks, 5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. He said, I'm going to arrange for you to teach. I said, you can't do that. I don't have a master's degree. I've got a bachelor's. So he said, no, you taught in the free enterprise system. And by coincidence, I just passed 10 years when this came up. And you had to have 10 years of... Tell me that God didn't want me to teach there. He arranged it. So then, I'll just end with this. The dean called me in after the class was over. Said, I sent out an anonymous questionnaire about you. Anonymous. I sent it out to people I knew where they lived, but they were not asked to put their name on it but they knew that that letter had been sent to a student in my class, so that when they came back, they knew it was the guy making. He showed them to me. The overall impression was Epperson's got the ability to make complex things simple.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's what all of my books are, my videos. For the average American who doesn't had the great misfortune of going to a college for 4 years, I regret those 4 years totally. I wasted my time, but I went. So I'm saying, know that when you go watch a video, it's I believe you saw that. It's simple, easy to follow. I show you pictures of the book, the person, the quote, footnoted when it was said, and where, who.
Yeah. I mean, Ralph, you have kind of filled in the gaps for me in the places that I didn't know. And this is big. It's a big puzzle. Like, I've been on this journey for less than a year now. It's been almost a year. And I'm piecing it together, and you've kind of brought the whole thing in a way that I can understand it. And so I'm very thankful for that. I want to read The New World Order, and I also want to read The Hidden Hand, even though I've seen the 4-hour video of The Hidden Hand. Both of these books, I'll put them up on the screen so people can purchase them. We've got Ralph's website below. Feel free to reach out to him, call him, purchase his books, friend him on Facebook. I love hearing what you post. You're very friendly, Ralph, and very knowledgeable, and I'm just very grateful that you have put in over 50 years.
I'm humbled by that. Can I tell you one story to end?
Sure.
I got a phone call. This is not a clue for your listeners to do this.
Okay.
I'm minding my own business, sleeping at 3:30 in the morning. The phone rings. It'll go away. No, ring. I say, oh, hello? She says, are you Ralph Epperson? I said, oh boy, here it comes. Yes, I am. Did you write The Unseen Hand? I said, yes. And she's going to laugh. She said, I had to call you 3:30 in the morning. I said, why? She said, I'm the executive secretary to the president of a Fortune 400 or 500, whatever they call it, corporation in San Francisco. If I named it, you would recognize it. It's that big. I'm the secretary to the president. She said, I just came back from Australia. When my brother, where you live, Australia, you probably know the guy because you're the one that recommended he read the book. He read the book. And so he told his sister, hey, sis, after we got through, you'll get packed and get your stuff undone, and we'll go to the beach. And we came back. So, sis, while you're here, read that book over there. What book? That book on the table. She walked over, picked it up. Conspiracy about history? I don't have any. She said, I've never voted. I'm guessing, this is a guess, 35 to 45, that age group. Very pleasant, happy woman, seemed to be in control. So she said, I picked it up, and I didn't read it. So I started, I couldn't put it down. She said, I've never voted in my life. I don't care about it. I've never read a history book. I didn't go to college. She finished it on the airplane flying back from, it's 400, 500 pages.
Yeah.
She got out of the airport, rushed to get her luggage, waited for that, took the cab or home car back to her apartment. She walked in at 3:30 and I got to call Epperson. So she says, you've changed my entire life. Yeah. I said, what do you mean? She said, suddenly I saw everything you said is right. And I said, I've never heard this before, but I know you're right. I said, well, do it. Anything I can do to help you. I make that comment anytime anyone calls. Yeah. Someone writes to be a friend. I say, please keep in touch. Yeah. I'll do anything I can assist. So I'm happy to assist anyone that calls me or wants to talk to me. Yeah. I knock my camera down again.
It's okay, Rob. That's okay. I think that the reason why people resonate and they like this is because you're delivering truth. And for the first time in our lives, we are given the truth of what's going on. We're not being lied to. We're not being deceived. And it's the most accurate information. I mean, I've been reading a lot on this journey, and you're not the only leader and teacher that has come my way. But I think that's what the awakening is all about. It's realizing that we are so much more powerful than we are ever taught about in school, and we are thinking that we're free and we're not free. And, you know, the deception of the New World Order on our dollar bills. I mean, and we can even go into that because there's more.
Oh, absolutely. Where do you see how
really what it means to be using the dollar? That is crazy. And all that other stuff that you talk about in the hidden hand is like, whoa. And it's being done right in front of our faces because we are too busy to understand, and because we're not like them, and we have hearts, and we care about our neighbor, and we don't think that any harm can be done and that anybody can be this crazy is, you know, it's real. These people are crazy, and they don't operate like you and me. They don't care about our best interest at hand, and we need to wake up to this reality, and we need to spread the word like what you're doing and what I do. And I just think the more people that understand this, the more we are going to influence the future. And we are doing that. We are doing that. The kids are waking up, and I have woken up, even though it's taken me 45 years to do that. I am very clear with what needs to happen. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing this right now. So I highly recommend all of the work that you're doing because it's true. It's truth.
You don't look like you're 45. I would say you're 23.
Thanks, Ralph. And you, let's just end. Should we end it on the Tom Selleck? Let's show people your alter ego and your...
I joke about that I look like Tom Selleck, so I prepared this to do this interview. You told me not to do that.
And then that's another thing, Ralph, that I really like about you is I found myself laughing quite a bit in your funny commentation of what's going on. So you're not only very knowledgeable, but you're very funny as well.
In conclusion, let me say this.
Yes.
I have to laugh because of what I know. I'm telling you, this is really scary stuff.
I know.
And I know it's scary. And that makes it difficult for people to believe it. But I'm telling you, I use their own literature and I lived up to it. And if I don't laugh, I make fun like this a joke. It's just a joke. But we all laughed. At least I hope you laughed. I come up with funny things in my DVDs for one reason, to let you know that I'm just human. I'm just like you. But I've done some reading and you haven't. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it is now. We're in the bottom of the ninth inning. I'm telling you that. That's how close this thing is. It's scary.
Yes, we are. And that is another thing that people keep saying, because I've had maybe about 5 teachers along this journey where I just continually soak in what they are saying. And every single person is different. But they all are saying that we are in clear and present danger. We are on the brinks of extinction, and we need to turn this ship around right now. Right now, we need to do that. And that's what's happening. We've got a new paradigm coming.
If you're on Facebook, Ralph Epperson, no dash, RALPH. You'll put it up there to see it on there. And get in touch, make me a friend, and I'll send you a friend acceptance that lists 4 DVDs that I'm urging you to watch. And if you watch those, then you're starting to get a grasp of how enormous this problem is. But even then, this is like crawling up a ladder, walking up a ladder. Yeah. You're down at the bottom. This will maybe get you 3 steps up, but there's about 3 or 4 more above you. Yeah. Just be aware of that. You got to keep going.
I know, I am, Ralph. I am. And it's like, you don't know what you don't know. And I'd say every few weeks, I layer and I layer and I layer, and I'm just like, yep, okay, we need to move forward, guys. Let's go. Let's change this course right now.
By the way, just so your people know, I don't know if they are used to cameras. I've got a camera on top of my computer, and I see you in my, what's this called?
Screen.
The beginning, the screen. So, and I can see you. I'm obviously talking to you, and you're responding, and I know that I can see you. But I'm supposed to look at the camera. So I look down to watch you, and then I realize I've got a note saying "look." So that's why you see me going up and down like this.
I think we did a wonderful job, Ralph, and I would love to bring you on and talk again. And anybody out there that wants to publicly talk, I mean, we've got your studio now, your man cave, and Ralph is looking good. You can talk about this and get in front of the camera. And anybody that wants to interview you, reach out to Ralph.
Yes, please do.
listen to the DVDs that he's put together. Yeah, let's go. It's I
Thank
feel
you very
like I've
much.
stepped into my purpose, and this is what is going to happen. And
you're very kind to allow me to come in and do it. We did it for what, an hour and a half or whatever it is. I thank you for that. You've been very kind to me, and I want to continue this at your convenience whenever you want to do this. I hope that even with my sitting up like this and getting back, we're amateurs trying to save a nation. I don't have the abilities that Steven Spielberg does, so I do the very best I can with a limited budget, and that's what I finally bought a camera.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had this facility now.
Yeah, and I'll just end, Ralph. You may be lacking and you're not lacking actually at all, but you may be lacking in the technology skills, but you are not lacking in the New World Order or the Hidden Hand. So you're an expert, you're the leading expert on this topic, and I highly suggest people, pay attention and take this seriously and educate yourself on this, because there is a lot to learn.
Thank you.
I'll do my best along the way.
Keep in touch.
All right, Ralph. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Have a good day.
Same to you.